Take two, everybody. Screwed up. Got too excited. I'm so excited. It's after dark. It's normal time for doing a taping, and I got so excited that I sneezed. Almost agreement at gmail.com. We got Facebook, we got Twitter, we got YouTube. Go to your favorite podcast provider, find us there. You can like, friend, follow, share, text this to your friends. Do whatever you can do to help spread the word. We're going to keep doing stuff. I tried to get breaks today. I talked to Elaine Davis's office yesterday. It's been a busy week in the hemp front. I can update you on how much less near weed you're going to be able to smoke in Tennessee here very shortly if we don't figure out a way to slow this down. But anyway, almostagreement.com's got a link to holleroo.co. That's HOLLER.co. That is the link for Holleroo in Happy Holler on May 17th. You should come check that out. If you want to race a derby car with us, register today. Register to vend your wares, and or just come hang out and have see a sweet rock concert. And there's other stuff going on. Anyway, we're Almost Agreement at gmail.com. I'm sure I'll have stuff that's worth you emailing me and telling me I'm wrong about, so you should. So we're going to do a show, and I've got an exciting trivia question for Sam to start the episode off tonight. We'll see if he knows it, because he's our resident hockey. Anyway, here we go. All right, friend, I was watching Jeopardy this week, and they had a hockey trivia question. And I didn't know it, but with the way Jeopardy clues do, I figured out what the answer was before the contestant did. But, we know what a hat trick is, right?
Right. Do
you know what a Gordie Howe hat trick is?
Mm-hmm.
What's a Gordie Howe hat trick?
Goal and assist and a fight all in one game.
Very nice. Very nice. You do know exactly that. I thought I might stump you with that one. Nah. Sam comes through with his hockey knowledge once again.
I think I actually learned that from a hockey video game.
Nice.
Where the announcer keeps talking about hey, if it gets blah, 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 it'll get a Gordie Howe hat trick.
So the Four Nations went off quite well. Many people were very pleased with it. It seemed like it was quite exciting. I didn't realize it was replacing the All-Star break.
Yeah, I think they decided to do that instead of, since a lot of the All-Stars would be playing in this. So it'd kind of be hard to do both simultaneously.
Right, except the All-Stars that happen to be like Czech or Russian or Slovenian or one of those countries that they didn't have. But no, I agree. I thought it was fantastic. I'm not a big PK Subban fan, but PK was on one of the Talking Head shows, and
I heard something about that.
He had a very good monologue where he really laid into. He's like, this is what sucks. This is why hockey is the best sport in the world. It's like, yes, they're technically exhibition games or whatever, but you're wearing your country colors to go play the game. It's not an exhibition game anymore. They went out there and they played and they fought, and they're playing for the guy next to them. And he's like, that's what's lacking in baseball. That's what's lacking in basketball. That's why the Pro Bowl for football is stupid. And he really went after it, and I was really impressed with his eloquence on the topic.
Well, I mean, I'll play a little bit of a devil's advocate. I think one thing that's kind of prevented the NHL from having, I guess, that level of, because it's been a lot of time or many years for a lot of these guys that have been able to play the Olympics or any kind of major, I think they used to have a World Cup of hockey or something where they had.
There hasn't been an international tournament in many moons. It's
even a lot of sports, Olympics started doing, I think they do it with soccer and a lot of major sports to where they started doing, 18 and under or 21 and under and trying to take a lot of the quote unquote professionals that dominate some sports.
Right.
Back to the Dream Team days where nobody was touching the Dream Team that we had in basketball.
What's funny is basketball is in what is it? Women's basketball and women's softball in the Olympics were won by the U.S. every single time they played. They retired both of them. The last year that the softball was in the Olympics was the only time the U.S. softball didn't win it.
Really?
Yeah, it was a funny little.
I think that was Beijing. I remember hearing something about that it was going to be the last year for it.
Yeah, and I mean the argument for why it was the last year is that it's nobody else is any good at this sport. This is an American sport. There's no British or French or German. There's not even at the college level where you could field a team comparable to what the U.S. team was putting up.
Right. I'd say that more so we're probably looking at viewership and sponsorship, et cetera.
I mean, I think both. I think one of the. I think 6.5 dozen. I think both are in play.
Right.
I think if you have a sport that is absolutely dominated by one country, not one or two countries, just one.
Yeah.
It's really why? I mean, if I'm the Polish softball club, I don't really want to go play it. Why?
Yeah.
I want to go just get beat up on in the Olympics. That doesn't make us look good. It doesn't do anything for our sport locally. You get some of the African nations make the World Cup. That's a big deal, even though they haven't done the Nigerian team had to run that one year. But for the most part, a lot of the African nations don't really make deep runs into World Cup soccer.
think Morocco's gotten a little better.
But,
It was Senegal. I think it was when they had it in Africa or in South Africa. I think Senegal went kind of far in that. So I don't know if they got a bye into that tournament or whatever.
Yeah. Well, you're right. Well, it's the host nations gets an automatic bid.
Right.
But I don't remember. I don't know how all the seeding works.
But having that, like you were saying, does start to build, sport in those different countries when they see their team that they didn't realize was any good, and they're like, oh shit, like we do have a.
I think we're still riding the wave of the '96 Olympics here locally. Like I think the growth of U.S. soccer has started with that '96 Olympics. It went from U.S. soccer being a complete afterthought to being a fifth thought, but it's not the last thing anybody thinks of in U.S. athletics anymore.
I saw highlights. I didn't watch it yet. I don't know how recent it was, but it said there was 4 red cards in a U.S.-Mexico. I think it was some kind of CONCACAF, or made it seem like it was some kind of tournament.
Was it friendly? No,
I was like, is this older tournament, or did this happen recently? I didn't even know about it.
Yeah, my neighbor and I usually have a standing bet whenever U.S.-Mexico play in a tournament or in a real game.
Yes, I don't know if it was a re-airing of something.
I can't bet on friendlies.
Right.
Even friendly bets, I won't bet on a friendly.
Yeah. You never know how hard either one of the teams are playing,
right?
Or who they're putting in,
right? Because and that's the point. It's a chance for teams to test some players in certain places that don't usually get to put them. And it's like I don't bet on preseason football either. Yeah, it's essentially the same thing.
I saw some shade from the 4 nations that was getting thrown at the NBA because I guess they've got their All-Star weekend right now, and apparently the viewership, I guess, in the NBA has been going down. I've seen a couple things on that, but apparently there's 4 nations blew the NBA All-Star weekend out of the water
because it was real sport. For lack of a better way to say it, it was the actual sport happening. Yes, Pro Bowl flag football game, it's kind of fun, it's silly or whatever. But if anything else was on, I would have watched that more than I'm watching a flag football game from a bunch of old men.
Yeah,
been too old to be playing flag football at least.
Some of the skills competitions are interesting.
They're fun and quirky. The hockey one's usually fun. I never enjoy the game. I did enjoy the format shift. I think the format shift they did in the mini tournament because it's the way they broke it down instead of it just being East-West when they went to conferences instead of divisions.
Yeah, last year they had 4 captains and each one got to
did a draft thing.
Pick. That was kind of interesting.
Yeah, but they have that little mini tournament, so they play 3 short games in the same night, or 4 short games in the same night, and winner loser tournament thing was real quick and whatever.
Yeah, that's very fun.
It makes it a little more fun and a little bit more, but it's again it's but I think the bottom line is, if I want to watch sports, I want to watch players trying their hardest to win games. That's what I want to see. I don't really even with basketball, the skills in the dunk contest. I haven't watched dunk contest in years, but it used to be fun to watch the dunk contest. But the game was never fun to watch. But at the same time, the game of basketball in and of itself is not super fun to watch, especially in the middle of the season when the games don't matter as much anymore. Same problem I have with baseball. There's too many damn games in that league. And I understand the economics of why there's so many games in baseball and soccer, or baseball and hockey as well, and basketball. But hockey has a culture, and this is where I'll agree with PK. Hockey has a culture of you go out there and play. You go out there and you play hard. If it's a winning topic, then if it's got some weight to it, you go out there and you play. Even midseason hockey, I don't know. Maybe they do it. I haven't seen much of it. But one of my complaints about basketball, and I've told this story 1,000 times. It's a couple years ago, back when the San Antonio Spurs were making championship runs year in and year out, and Popovich, their coach, left Tim Duncan and whatever the G guy name is, 2 of their stars, just left him at home for a 12-game, 3-week road tour they had to go on. It's just his midseason. You guys, I understand it strategically from his mindset. It makes total sense. These games, we could lose 6 of these 12 games. It's not going to change where we are in the standings. As long as we have a good push at the end of the season, It's going to be easier for us to have that good push at the end of the season if my top players can get a little rest and get some injuries, some minor injuries worked out and all that kind of stuff. And then a bunch of other owners and teams were pissed off because it's nobody's coming to Denver Nuggets games, man. They're coming to Denver Nuggets games to see who the visiting team is. And we got a whole bunch of, Tim Duncan fans here who were told and see on the internet that Tim Duncan's not traveling, aren't going to buy tickets to the game in Denver to see Tim Duncan because they know he's not coming.
Because even you have road fans that will travel to see that same scenario. They want to see the Stars play.
Yeah, and so anyway, basketball has its own problems, but I was really impressed with both games. I almost, when I was sending the lines to you, I was thinking Canada, but
both games. There was more than 2 games. What are you talking about?
Huh? The two U.S. Canada games.
Oh, okay.
The 2 games that mattered. Come on, bruh.
Finland and Sweden both did well. I was surprised. I can't remember what it was, and I think it was their forwards that they pretty much had the limit of forwards because there was only that many Finnish forwards in the NHL. Because to play in the tournament, you had to be an NHL player. You couldn't pull somebody up from the minors, etc. So I thought was kind of crazy. Obviously, Canada has a lot to pick from. U.S. has a good number of players to pick from, but I think it was Finland that was like, okay, I guess that's all of us forwards that are going to play now.
We don't create defensemen. What do we do with that?
No, they've got good defensemen. They had 2 or 3 that were injured right before it.
Ooh, that's a bummer.
You had Miro Heiskanen and I think a couple funny names that I was like, oh yeah, that does sound like a Finnish name or a Swedish name.
The Swedish chef from Muppets. Anyway, so yeah, I thought that was fun. I hope they continue to do those. I think that's better than a regular All-Star break. It does kind of. I get the inverse. The plan is
to go forward, but I think they're going to include more teams.
I do get the inverse though as well. As like if you're a Sidney Crosby or the Tkachuk brothers, or if you're one of these names and you've been grinding through a season, especially like a Sidney Crosby who's getting a little older to play the game, you could use the break,
right?
And that's kind of like LeBron doesn't play the All-Star game a lot of times in basketball, and that's kind of his argument. It's like I'm getting up there, and if I can it's better for my career for me to take a week off than go play an All-Star game.
I want to say Ovechkin,
especially if you're going to play hard.
I think Ovechkin's done it like once or twice, where he got obviously invited to the
All-Star game and didn't go,
and was just kind of like, I'd rather have a week off. He's like, I need to, I'm however old. I think he's up there as like one of the oldest still playing players.
Yeah, those damn Russians. I don't know if
who's older, him or Sid, but.
Yeah, they were close. I think Sid's a couple years younger than he is.
Yeah, but at least once or twice he's been like, I'm not going to go to the All-Star game.
Right. And I'm going to
rest my body. Because like you said, you're mid-season, so you're either your team may be trying to push to make the playoffs or...
Right, or you're trying to stay relevant to keep it even an option for the later part of the year.
And even for some teams, they're reluctant to, and I think other sports do it too, they're reluctant to send players to these exhibition games for fear of them getting hurt.
Yeah.
It's like, I know you want to go play for this tournament or whatever, but... we've got you under contract to play for us.
Yeah, it's tough. I mean, I think the English Premier League version with all their weird stuff and their mid-season tournaments was perfectly illustrated on Lasso. He's like, I don't get it. It doesn't make any sense. So we got relegated from the Premier League to what? Champions. And now we're back in the Premier League, and we're taking a mid-season break to play a tournament called Champions League. He's like, it doesn't make any sense. And he looks at one of the other characters, and he's like, money. Oh, okay, that makes sense. It's about money. And it's like, oh, okay, that makes total sense. Yeah. But anyway, that's our sport news for the week, everybody. We'll follow sports tonight with weather. It snowed this week. We'll quickly follow weather with school issues. My kids had a combined, one of my kids had a day and 3/4. My other kid had 1 or a 3/4 of a school day this week. That was his entire week. They went to school Tuesday. Okay, let me back up. So one of the reasons we had a short episode last week was we did a day taping, and we had Mr. Scott from Compass sit in, and that was nice, and it was fun to talk to him. I would have loved to have talked to him longer, but we had an interview that we had to do for his show that was timed up, and that's why we stopped where we stopped and blah, blah, blah. Anyway, so one of the reasons we did art during the day with Scott was to get Scott on, but the second reason is I had to get up at 4 o'clock in the morning last Saturday to drop my kid off at school because he was taking his band trip, his 8th grade band trip. We were going to Disney for the weekend. So Saturday morning at like 5:15 or something like that, I drop him off at the school. He gets on the bus. They drive down there. They do that whole thing. The original plan was they were leaving Orlando at like 10 p.m. Tuesday evening and then driving back and to have him here at 8 o'clock Wednesday morning. It was an excused absence if they didn't want to go to school Wednesday.
Right.
But the target was to get them to school at the same time regular school was starting, so that families who needed them to go to school because of, not babysitting, but, they had parents were at work kind of stuff that needed to go to school for the day.
Right.
They could go in and they could stay and function through the day, or you could go home. Parents could pick up early. And more importantly, it's, 8 o'clock in the morning. It's a more reasonable hour to go pick up. It's not in the middle of the school day, whatever. And so what ended up happening, because that snow was coming in, they cut their trip a couple hours short. So instead of getting in at 8 o'clock on Wednesday morning, they left 3 hours earlier so they'd get in at 5 o'clock on Wednesday morning. So Tuesday night, I'm going to bed early so I can get up at 4 o'clock again Wednesday morning to go pick up. And so I'm out there, and it's snowing buckets, waiting for them to drop off. It was fine. There was no issues with it, but, they end up canceling school that day anyway, so his excused absence for Wednesday went on to be just an excused absence because everybody was out. And then we were out Wednesday and Thursday, and then 2 hours late today. The 2 hours late today part I have a little bit of objection to.
How long were they out for? I guess, was Knox County out for flu? It's 2 days.
2 days again, yeah. Which was a bummer because my youngest was out the first 2 days of that week, the 2 days the week before because he actually had the flu, and then the next week they take 2 days off for let the flu clear out. It's like he already had it.
Yeah, I saw there was a surrounding county like a week or so ago that had closed down for the day to let the health department, whoever, come in and disinfect the entire school.
Yeah, I think part of it too is because they did it on a Monday, Tuesday, so you had the whole weekend. So you had 4 full days for any of the kids that have it to run it through their system too.
Yeah. So I think I ended up having to text you because I saw on the local news site they just kept saying, I guess for a couple days in a row, Knox County closed, but there was no reason. So I texted you. I was like, "Why are they closed?"
For flu.
Yeah.
So that was a fun, crazy week of school stuff. I'm not really complaining. The 2 hour delay today is just annoying. I'm not mad about it. It makes sense. I get it. Especially elementary starts at 7:45. Depending on how close you live to the school, you're out the door at 6:15, 6:30. I would prefer not to be out in the roads at 6 in the dark when it's that cold and it's been snowy and there might be some icy slick spots. I can acknowledge that as reasonable. But then, So the reason we got off the air for last week's show was to get Scott his interview with Betsy Henderson, the chair of Knox County School Board, and you got to sit in on that conversation. Not the conversation that I promised her was off the record. We're not talking about that one. We're just talking about the one that was on the record with Scott. If you listen to Compass Points, you've already heard what we're talking about. Do you have any takeaways from that that you recall that you wanted to chat about?
Nothing too specific.
I still struggle with it. It's like I understand. She claims, at least, that I don't have the means to prove her wrong, that other random people came up there and testified. Not because of their job title, but because random citizen, John Q. Citizen, was testified before or after her before that subcommittee. And if that's the truth, then I guess I have to give her the benefit of the doubt on she's allowed to testify. Was one of my big thing was I doubt that she would have gotten the chance to testify if she wasn't who she was professionally. Well, politically professionally. But if she's telling the truth on that part, then I kind of got to pack that one away, because if she's telling the truth, that means I could have gone as a Joe Schmo. I wouldn't have to flash my press badge to get in. I would have just gone as a regular citizen. But so, I don't know.
I agree. It definitely takes a little bit of gravitas, because you can put your name on a list, but I'm sure someone's looking at, well, who is this?
Right, and there's a lot of people that probably wanted to put their name on a list.
Right.
Or did put their name on a list, and it's not like they're going to listen to every Tom, Dick, and Harry come give a speech. But it's still just confusing. It doesn't make sense to me. I can understand, on a personal level, if that is your personal view on it, I can understand that you support that. I truly do. That I don't understand it from the conservative perspective at all. She touts herself to be a conservative. That's a separate conversation. But she says that this is her philosophical belief on the topic. That's fine. But it does raise a lot of red flags when it's antithetical to your job. You got elected to do this thing, and that is not pro this thing. it's at minimum it's neutral, but everybody's pretty confident that it's going to be negative to the thing that you're the leader of. And so, like, how can you justify that even on a personal level, going out and publicly advocating for something that's going to damage what you've been elected to do?
They're able to kind of hang their hat on it because it sounds good. It's like, but don't you want parents to have more of a choice? Everybody's like, well, yeah, I would love to have more of a choice,
but I still don't have a choice.
Right?
Yeah, which is part of my problem with the argument, because the choice part of the argument it's always been false. It's always been a lie. In a
city, you've got a slightly better chance of a choice, but I mean, most of the state, as we've talked about many times, are rural counties.
Well, and by the state's own admission in the conversation about it, at minimum 2/3 of this 20,000 first-round vouchers that are going to go out are going to go to families that are already in private school.
Right. I don't know if they just kind of throw their hands up. They're like, oh, well, I guess. I mean, that's the people that signed up. You know, we had an open ability for people to sign up, and that just happens to be the people that...
Right, because those are the people that can afford it, even after the $7,000 discount.
Yeah.
You know, it's. I mean, it is. Look, again, like if it's really hold harmless to the local school districts, and the local school districts aren't going to lose funding over this, and blah blah blah. I mean, it's absolutely a transfer of wealth to the richest people in the state. It's that is what it is, and if we're okay with that, then say so. Don't pretend like it's something else, and that's what bothers me about the whole argument. Like, it's always been this, like, it's a choice thing, it's a freedom thing, it's a your parents, your parent, your choice, better use of your tax dollars thing. It's like, no, it's not. You're just trying to funnel money to the richest people in the state. Just fucking say it, and let's move on. That's what it is. That's what it always has been, and that's what it's going to be. But we just have to put our little pretend hats on, like there's some real justification for it, other than that, and there's not. It just is. We're funneling money to the richest people in the state. Congratulations.
I think Texas has one in the works. I saw a clip of... I've seen some other clips on him before. He's a Democratic state representative out of Texas. And I've seen him do a couple other like little viral speeches. But he had one, I can't remember what it was on, but it was all about them doing this. And I think his main point was, yes, this is just subsidizing the wealthy.
Right. Which, again...
all under the guise of, you get more choice.
Yeah, and they don't. And again, it's a bold-faced lie. Not that the Democrats don't do it too on other topics, but this is a bold-faced lie about what it is. And congratulations, all 13,000 of you that are already sending your kids to private schools. You just got a $7,000+ discount. And I still argue, and I will argue to death, and I will make some phone calls this week. I don't have enough going on. Let's add some more to it. I will call Webb and ask him. I will call CAK and ask him. I'd be like, are you going to take vouchers, or are you going to refuse voucher students? I'll just straight up ask them.
Hey, they're probably going to give you a straightforward answer on the phone because you're talking to most likely a secretary.
No, I'm going to ask for admissions and talk to somebody that works in admissions.
Well, I think even then they wouldn't tell you flat out that they would not accept it. Okay. I think they still have the option too, but
they absolutely do. They can pick and choose whoever they want. There's no rules about who they have to let in or anything.
Right. Well, I'm sure they would kind of give you a broad answer.
Oh, I'll get a broad answer.
Well, I thought I had a choice. I mean, they can refuse me.
I mean, that was always true, and they try to. The politician parts of it are trying to pretend like that isn't always true, but that's always been true. I mean, well, whatever. Who cares? I'll call and ask them. What's the worst thing that can happen?
This is true.
I will identify myself as a media personality, and this will be on the record.
Get an even better lukewarm answer.
Well, I mean, I guess you're right. I could go undercover. I could go undercover and be like, "Hey, I'm a parent. I got 2 kids. They'll be a freshman and a 7th grader next year. I'm looking at getting this voucher and maybe sending them to your school. How's that going to work?" See what they say.
It's possible.
I mean, how much money you make? None of your fucking business. Well, you got to answer that question to even have this conversation.
Do you?
I mean, again, it's up to if that's what they want to know.
It'd be weird if you'd have to have proof of funds to apply to a private school.
I would think that they'll at least run a credit check on you. Probably run a background check on you and your kids too. Yeah, I mean, I would expect them to.
You would expect the school to run a background check on the parents when they apply for their child to go to school there?
Man, the background check may be a little bit of a stretch, but I'd expect a financial check. Absolutely. I'd expect a credit check and some other stuff like that. Can you actually afford to go here?
That's possible. It depends on how much of an issue they've had with like collections, etc.
Yeah. So,
like Billy and Susie, we need you to tell your parents that you're not going to be able to come next week because you guys are like 3 months behind.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how they do payment plans, or if you got to pay it all at the beginning of the semester, or you got to pay it a whole year at a time, or who knows?
Who knows?
Yeah. Well, maybe
You'll find out.
Maybe I'll know this week.
That's right.
I'll make some phone calls. And so, yeah. Anyway, the word on the street though is, and this is what makes the most sense to me. I don't know if I've said this on the show yet. I've got some little birdies telling me that Betsy is trying to run for county mayor, and this is her putting the signal out on her conservative bona fides, so that when she runs against Larson in the primary, she can beat Larson because she went to the state and advocated for.
But look what I did. Something that was already going to get passed anyway.
Exactly. I mean, like, but she expended political capital to do it. She has taken blowback from it, and the reason that the rumor makes sense to me, again, this is pure conjecture, people. She has not told me. I have not seen any documentation that she has pulled the treasurer or anything for a mayoral run. It's just a rumor. But the reason the rumor lands, and I feel comfortable saying it, that it makes sense at least, is why would you defend it so hard after the fact? You went and you did it. People are pissed off. Yes, I did it. She did a Facebook post. Leave it at that. But then she was actively seeking out media last Thursday, Friday, to go state her case to the public.
Well, I mean,
on why. And so
for most constituents that think their representative isn't doing anything, this is just her trying to reinforce and put out there that, like, hey, look at me. I went to, which
right,
isn't a bad thing, but look what I've gone and doing for you, my constituents.
But in her personal capacity, then that makes that a...
But she can wear both those coats at the same time,
exactly.
Whoever she wants to talk to. And it looks good to both.
I mean, I think to me, but again, the point being is, I think that's what makes the rumor feel a little bit more than a rumor to me, that she's actually at least probing the idea, because I don't see, to again, go subscribe to the Compass Points podcast, people. He's got an interview with Kat Bike that's a response to Betsy Henderson that'll be coming out on this week's episode. And Kat makes a really good point. It's like she goes and testifies as a public school student herself. Her kids are in public school and will be staying in public school. So it's not like she was going and testifying as a parent who wanted this for her own usage. She just wanted this on a philosophical level. And so, and it's a valid point. I mean, Kat Bike made it was a pretty smart point. It's like, well, just anybody who's testifying before this committee, it would make more sense if it was somebody who had direct involvement. Somebody who was like, hey, I don't want this because of X, Y, and Z, or hey, I do want this for me and my family or for friends of mine or something like that. But then you have this person who is a school board chair, but she's only there as an individual advocating for it on principle and nothing else. Not because she wants to use it, not because she didn't tell any stories about friends that she wanted it to be available to, nothing like that. It was just literally the philosophical argument, which I guess kudos for. I like people that are philosophically consistent. Not that she is at all, but at least, she wasn't doing it on a selfish basis, so I guess that's cool. But nonetheless, I think she's going to run for mayor. I believe the rumors are true. But I will reiterate, for legal sake or whatever, it's just rumors. And I won't give up my source. Is plural. More than one person independently has told me that they've heard this themselves. So
anything's possible.
Figure out who I'm talking to every day. And
rumors in politics? Never.
All right. I mean, but again, like I said, it makes total sense given what she did and stuff like that. So, trying to think of what else is going on. That was kind of the overarching biggest story of the week. Yeah, that dog is definitely running loose right now. I call animal control, but you know what?
What?
They're closed.
Nice.
And until I go out there and get bit by that dog, nobody's coming.
Well, tell him you saw a rake-in and it's got foamy mouth.
It's got rabies. How do you know? I don't know. It's the whole point is it's a dog, and it's a big dog too. You know, it's a husky. Sorry, context here, people. I think the reason Rowdy's been going crazy all show is we've had a husky that's been off leash pretty consistently, on and off for the past like month or so. Maybe there's a fenced backyard that's got a hole in it that the owner doesn't know about. I don't know, but this dog's been getting out fairly regularly, and that's, I'm guessing, what Rowdy keeps barking at in the background. And so in previous experiences, with this dog and others, where I've tried to contact the city or county animal control, as we know, it's been shifted over to Young Williams, and they run standard business hours. And so unless it's an emergent issue, there is no animal control in Knox County or the city of Knoxville. So go get bit, and then you can ask for help. I guess that's kind of, at some level, that's like consistent with my philosophy. There's got to be a crime committed before you send the law.
Yeah, they look at the seriousness of it.
Yeah. I mean, I could call, I could just call 911 and be like, they're trespassing. There's somebody trespassing in my yard. What is it? Or who is it? I don't know. It's a big, pretty, male, 85 pounds, white hair, shaggy. Just leave it at that and see what they do.
Yeah. I don't know how much I would expect a city to do it at 2 a.m. and I call, hey, there's a dog running around the neighborhood.
I mean, I know you're right,
sir. We'll write a report up.
You're 1,000% right. It's just, I don't know, like
the inconvenience of it.
The first time I called the city on this particular dog is because it was running around down there on the Morel end, and it's like somebody's going to hit that dog,
right?
And that dog's going to die. And that was my more frustration with it. It's like because it was at like 5:30 in the evening, and we were taking our dog for a walk. We saw it running around loose. We came back inside because I don't want to have that confrontation. And it's like, what do we do? I was like, well, I'll call animal control. We'll see what they can do. And then I call and get the voice machine. And I'm like, well, there's a dog running loose. I guess I'm afraid it's going to get hit by a car.
Call me back when you get this, I guess.
I don't know. It hasn't hurt anybody yet. But it might get itself hurt real bad. Or, Morel has the standard Knoxville ditch on both sides of the road thing. So you roll off the actual pavement. It's a pretty bad wreck pretty quick on Morel there. So trying to swerve to not hit this dog, you could get yourself hurt pretty bad too. So anyway, that's the dog in the background story. What else we got, friend?
Doggy business.
I tried to get to I was supposed to. Let me word this fairly. I was trying to get a short interview with Briggs today. And he has lost his voice after meetings all morning, so he was not in shape to do a verbal interview. And in the back of my head, I almost asked the assistant if I can just email him some questions, and he can email them back, and we could talk about it on the show, and then maybe follow him later. But I didn't get a call from his office until like 6 o'clock tonight, 6:30. So I felt like that was probably a little late to email a list of questions to the man.
True.
But so we are loosely scheduled for next week. Actually, once we break out of this, I need to send him an invite to the Zoom meeting so that we can see each other. I'd like him to come down. He'll be in town. It's next Friday. I would love for him to come down and be in studio, but if he prefers to do a phone call or Zoom, whatever's fine.
Work with their schedule. That gives you a better chance of. Because he could even do that on his phone.
Yeah. Which the last couple of times I've seen him on the news and stuff, he's doing Zoom. So, we already talked about the bridge, right? Did we talk about the bridge on the show? It's officially a walking bridge for the next couple of years, and then they're going to tear it down. That's the part I don't know what we talked about though. Like literally, it's
what?
There is no amount of repairs that's going to make the Gay Street Pig drivable again.
Okay, sorry, I was thinking about the South Knoxville UT Bridge.
Oh well, that one's in question because of funding.
I saw they did finally say that it was never going to reopen to
right.
car
Basically,
traffic.
The amount of damage that's going on, which I have a lot of questions, and we'll see if anybody gets to the bottom of it. Because according to Compass on the topic, the state of Tennessee sends out an inspector annually, it was every 2 years, and then the last couple of years it's been annually to inspect that bridge, and it's been fine. A different inspector was hired. I don't know if the original one retired. It's very unclear why the other inspector wasn't doing it this time. The one that's done the last 6 inspections or whatever didn't do this most recent one. different person comes in, does the recent one, shuts it down immediately. I don't know. I might be crazy.
I saw a local story. I don't know if it was the county or the city, but it was like their engineering department that kind of oversees bridges and inspections and whatnot. That department got a raise. It could have been something that was already approved by state or county previously, but it's kind of coincidental. It's like, wait, you just said that bridge is messed up, and the guys that are supposed to be looking at this are getting a raise.
The guys that are supposed to be looking at it are state, but it's a state thing.
Right.
The inspector that shut it down is a state inspector. The inspector that has been in there for years prior to this was a state inspector. It's just that for whatever reason, I don't know what the reason was, there was a change in inspector. A different inspector immediately shut the bridge down. I find it hard to believe that in a 1-year span, it went from it's okay to you can't even walk across this thing right now.
Really?
Yeah.
Huh.
Like, it is completely shut down. Nobody's allowed to touch it until some work gets done to it. And, so I don't remember exactly how much the city is earmarked to spend on it, but it's going to be a handful of millions of dollars to get it to be safe for pedestrians and bicycles. But that's it. And so all our friends down on South Knox, I'm sorry, it's going to be all our Sevier Avenue hipsters. Your city access and the city's access to you has been cut substantially, and I'm sorry. That sucks. But yeah, so whenever the repairs they're doing are anticipated to last 5 to 10 years, and then it's going to be a full demolish and rebuild of a brand new bridge if they build a new bridge there.
If
I mean,
right.
The world's a different place 10 years from now, 8 years from now, on whether it's maybe they really like that it's a footbridge and nobody's complaining about the lack of vehicle traffic, and they just build but they'll have to build a new footbridge too. It is not. The way it reads to me is that it has 10 more years with substantial repairs now. It has maximum 10 more years, and then there is no more past that. Period.
I can't think of too much. Like once you go across the bridge, I guess going south, I can't think of too much close there that you would walk to.
I mean, the
area is not too much further away, but you're walking a decent little stretch.
Sevier Avenue comes all the way up. Like you have that weird little split on Sevier Avenue.
Right. I guess I'm kind of thinking of that area there.
Right. There's that weird little split. But once you get past that little teardrop split, the entrance to Holston Gases, and the entrance to Holston Gases is when all the stuff starts. Like all of that's built out now. Like there's been a ton of stuff put in down there. We tried to put a shop down there, and the people that own the building that Highwire's in said, "We don't want your kind."
Yeah.
Literally. And then on the other end of the street, on the far east end, north side of Sevier Avenue, there was another multi-unit building that had like one tenant of 5, and we talked to that landlord, and he said, "We don't want your kind either." It's like, cool. So, whoever those landlords were and stuff, thank you. I'm glad you didn't let us in, because I'd be really mad today. City budget's happening. I'm really I don't know how I feel about this. Did you hear the story about the Foundry?
That there was some kind of like Knoxville children's play group that was taking it over?
Mm-hmm. I mean, I think it's cool use of it. Don't get me wrong. We did prom there, right? Is that what we did there? We did something in high school there.
We did a banquet there once. I remember I think our reunion was supposed to be there.
I don't remember. I got an invite.
I got an invite, but I wasn't going to pay $50.
I would have paid $50. I would have paid $50 for you. I'd love to go see Grayson Tuck and that white kid. What's his name? What was his first name?
That white kid?
That was his last name. Was White. He lived down the street from me. He drove me to school. I carpooled with him for like a year.
I can't recall.
Yeah, Grayson. I'll love to see Grayson Tuck again. And
Grayson.
I don't know why Grayson pops out in my head, but there's a handful of people like
he was class president.
Yeah, that's why that's why I don't know, whatever. I'd be curious. I would make the trip. I would make the effort to go. Dork it up a little bit. But usually $50, it's usually an open bar, man. You'll drink $50 while you're there. But There's this interesting, what's it called? IACMI. It's I don't know. It's like some new age materials fabricators. It's going in. It's like a partnership with TVA and UT and like 6 other organizations where it's like they're developing new materials. Like it's not whatever. That was the story of the week. This city waste, fraud, and abuse story was kind of dumb. Don't really care about it. What else we got? Stadium sign plan. We talked about that last week. State budget came out. We did talk about that with Scott a little bit. The stadium's on track. They should be open in like 6 weeks.
Let's see, I thought I saw a news release from Lee that he released a statement on something in the last couple of days.
Have you said? Did you see the story on there's a contract with it's not Psychedelic, it's a lawn care company. Shrubadelic lawn care. They have a contract with Boyd Sports to do the field changes. So apparently it's a completely different field. It's not just covering up the infield. When they convert from soccer to baseball, it is a completely different sod set.
Huh.
And so, like, it's just
kind of makes sense. But
well, let me correct that a little bit. It's the pitcher's mound is pneumatic, and so you push a button and the pitcher's mound drops, and then you put a cover on it so it's flat there for the field for other things.
Weird.
So apparently, what they do is they put down a sheet, and then they lay new sod on top when soccer's playing, and so the baseball field stays there. And they put the soccer field on top of it for the day or the weekend or whatever it is when they have a soccer game.
I mean, it makes some sense. I mean, either sport you could say, is ruining the turf for the other teams. I always thought that was odd. Like the handful of stadiums for like the NFL games. I don't know if there's still any. It's probably at least one or two.
No,
they do baseball and football in the same. They always had those patches of dirt out in the field. It always looked like it was dirt.
Right. Well, the worst was Philly. Back in the 80s, early 90s, because that was an AstroTurf field, which was kind of neat because they had these, like, basically it was a baseball field, but only the bases had dirt. So the infield was all grass, but only around the bases was dirt. And so they would take the dirt out of them, and they had these inserts that fit perfectly of AstroTurf, except for, the edges. I can't remember who it was. There's some guy who almost died on the football field because he broke his back because his foot got stuck in it. His foot got stuck in the gap between these two segments, and he got twisted up. And it's like it like broke, like he messed up a couple of his lower vertebrae or whatever. Damn. And almost like I think he lost function of his legs like forever. After that, but like almost died on the field because his foot got stuck in that thing, and I think that's one of the reasons why they quit letting that particular format go in baseball or in football.
Well, there was a push for a little while of taking out AstroTurf. I think I heard about it more so like in football. A lot of players, that played in like Indianapolis for years, said that their joints of just running around on an AstroTurf more often were killing them.
I mean, everybody has the new stuff. There's some outdoor.
This was like older, I guess.
Right. There's a lot of stadiums that are outdoors that have this new fake grass.
Yeah,
but it's, I don't know. Other than eating the rubber pellets, it's apparently much nicer on your body.
Yeah,
I don't know.
Yeah, the older Astro, they were just super hard. Yeah,
it's like concrete with a really thin carpet on top.
Yeah, it's like that old crappy green stuff that people used to put on their porches. Yeah, except it was just a little bit thicker.
Yeah. It wasn't thicker, it was just a tighter weave so that it was closer to, the blades were closer together, whatever. But I mean, you got some of the fastest guys in the world running on that stuff, man. They were quick. It made the game a little faster for those periods of time. All right, back into the sports section tonight, apparently. But yeah, that's kind of neat. The Earthadelic, there it is. That's the name of the company.
I was about to say I've heard of it, but I couldn't think.
They won the bid for being the field changers for the new stadium. That's kind of fun.
That's where I thought we've seen a couple stories about UT having like one of the top like turf
Yeah,
science.
UT and Michigan State right now are in have a contract with FIFA.
Yeah,
All the fields will be coming out of here in, I guess, Lansing.
Would that be a conflict of interest for Randy Boyd being the UT president to kind of pull some strings and get UT's turf science people?
I would think so. I don't know if they're involved in this or not either. They might be part of it.
I think they would at least have like a consultant or something.
But I mean, I agree. But like that's where it gets dirty though. Like just on the pure, like we're talking like not on the same level of the Doge craziness that's going on at the federal level or whatever. But it's like, yes, that would be a good thing. I think that would make reasonable sense. But you have Boyd Sports, who has a discount stadium because the city, county, sports authority, state of Tennessee all pitched in money to build him his stadium. And then he's paying what's quote unquote reasonable rent, which I call bullshit on, and making money off of doing things in this facility and hiring employees from his other job to come work for him. And it's like, where's the so he's hiring them at a discount because they're UT employees? Like when Boyd Sports hires a consultant from UT, do you think Boyd have the influence to say, hey, Department of Ag or whoever it is, turf science, want to send those guys over, but don't charge me what you're charging FIFA?
I guess it would depend on the level of consultation.
I'm
like,
saying,
hey, we're going to pay you to come out for 2 hours, walk the field, see if you see an issue, and let us know. Not, we don't need you to come here but again, 9 to 5, Monday through Friday.
Well, the question is, what would the University of Tennessee charge another business to do that for?
Right.
Are they going to charge Boyd the same in the stadium project? Because if he was paying reasonable rent, like if he was actually built the building himself and stuff like that, I would have a little less of an issue with it. But since he's already paying a discounted rate, it's like, well, he's got discounted rent and he gets discounted professional top tier consult on his turf situation.
I don't know how he would swing the pressure to get a discounted rate on it.
No, he doesn't even need to swing the pressure. I think it's implied.
Well, he can cut the program. I don't think as a president he can
an
education department.
If do you know anybody who works for a university, like personally?
A couple. I don't talk to them. But
how much do their kids pay for tuition when they go?
I think they get 50% off, 25% off.
Yeah, so it's implied if you're an employee of the university system that you get a special rate on tuition. I would think it's implied in other things that if you're an employee of the university that's using university assets, you get a better deal than normal people do.
Okay. I was looking at the good side of this. You took the dark turn on it.
Well, I mean, I guess it'd be. I guess
I was thinking of just trying to utilize, like I said, if we're like one of the 2 top schools in the United States that has to do with turf science, that it would behoove us to maybe have someone check in every once in a while, or at least the initial putting down of the field. I said I don't think it's unheard of for.
Trying to say something with the way you said that cliche.
Yeah.
Check. I picked it up. I heard it. I felt it. Deep down.
Sorry. That was just an underhanded little dig.
I've
got lots of words that I've said incorrectly for years, and I was like, wait, that's a word? Or that's how you say that?
Yep, that's how you spell that word?
It looks totally different when you see it written out.
Oh, I don't know, friend. What else has been happening with you? What's new? What's going on? How's Oak Ridge life?
Oh, not too bad.
Oh, I screwed up. I totally skipped that stuff there. Hey, buddy, how we doing?
Oh, I'm okay. How are you?
What's new with you?
Not much.
All right. 45 minutes in, we finally got the show started.
Yay.
I don't know. I've been, I'll be honest, I've been slamming. It's tax season. Got all 55 million different things going on right now. It's been, I think I was joking with the wife earlier. I think I'm on last Friday's Breaking Points episode.
Gotcha.
I think I finished that this morning. So, I'm a week behind. And it's not that I'm a week behind. I'm not going to go listen to Monday's Breaking Points. I'll just pick up the most recent episode whenever I start listening again. But I've not been in the mood. I've just not had time. I've been busy as shit. It's been fun.
Catching a few of their clips.
It's been fun, but I've enjoyed being busy. It's not a complaint. I'm just not as in tune with the goings on as I have been. The Turn Up Knock story is pretty funny.
You're missing a lot and not much at the same time.
I mean, that's the reality. I mean, that's the problem.
Yeah,
that's the truth and problem that is, especially national politics. Like 10 million things have probably happened in the week that I haven't been paying attention, and my life hasn't changed at all. Nobody's life that I know has changed at all.
All right. I mean, it is rare that
I don't have any federal
you see
employee
drastic changes, but
right. And I don't have any friends that are federal employees, and I mean, my mother-in-law's on Social Security, partial. I don't remember what her whole situation is.
I did see a clip of a...
When she don't get a check, I might be a little bit more animated.
Yeah. I did see a clip of a conservative commentator on Fox News that I guess he had one of his friends that had reached out to him. I think it was former military and then started working somewhere in the private sector at the Pentagon or whatever, but apparently he was one of these probationary employees that has gotten let go.
Yeah.
So he was kind of like, well, hold on. Maybe this isn't such a good thing to just fire people left and right. or to not pick and choose. Because this guy was like, hey, I was in 15 years of military service. I thought I would be safe in the cuts or whatever.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. Like, I think we were talking about this before we started. Like, I think... I'm not condoning or endorsing the action. I'm just stating the facts that I think in the business world, this is not an uncommon way to do when you're trying to take over a company and really change the way a company is working. Like if you,
I mean, percentage of workforce layoffs initially coming in, like what's acceptable?
I don't know.
You just buy a company, you lay people off. Like what's the general percentage of?
Well, it's like, okay, well, for number 1A is if you're going to take over a company, why did you take it over? Because it was doing something well? Well, then why did the people let it go? Right? So if you're assuming that the people that got out of it, that you bought out of it or whatever it was, hostile takeover might be a little bit different or whatever, but you're assuming at some level that the reason you took it over is because you saw potential for it to do.
Right.
And so what is that potential, and what is your interpretation of what it takes to get to that potential? I mean, again, this is not me glorifying Musk in any way, shape, or form, but when he took over Twitter, he fired like half the staff.
Right. And what are the revenues looking like right now?
The revenues weren't looking good then either.
I could be wrong. I think it's gotten worse, but
I mean, like if he took it over because again,
I mean, that's what I don't know a lot about business. That's why, you saying half. I don't know if I've heard, but some departments that are talking about 25%, of workforce that were laid off. Because I don't know what's acceptable on like a corporate merger of.
I mean,
like I said, 25% sounds like a lot to me.
I mean, it could be depending on a million factors. There is no acceptable. There's no standard. It just depends on. I mean,
I'm not asking you for a precise answer. Like I said, I don't know what's kind of normal.
Okay, so for the sake of giving my honest opinion of what Musk thinks he's doing from his perspective, I don't agree with the perspective. I know, but I'm trying to say if he thinks that the company that is the United States government is a bloated mess, and there are too many people doing literally next to nothing, or too many people doing the same job over and over, like there's 15, 20 people that are all doing the same job, not different variations of the same job, but literally the same job. If that's what he thinks, why he thinks that is beside the point. But if you take it into a more business format, like when he took over Twitter, if he thinks that there are 57 coders that are working in his office in San Francisco or whatever that aren't really doing anything structurally, functionally for the company, and he only needs 2 or 3 of them, sure, he'll fire 54 of them. Why wouldn't you? If there's no percentage rule on it, it's I need 5 coders that can do a good job fixing things on the fly. Because I only need 5 coders because I need 24-hour coverage. I need 2 at a time every day of the week. That's all I need. And if that's going to work for him, if he thinks that's what's going to work, that's the move you're going to do. And so you fire 50-something people. And so it's not a numbers thing, but as far as percentage of whatever, and again, like we can argue about whether or not
So I ask you to, I guess, what is normal? And you're like, well, I can't really get into specifics, but at the same time, I feel like you're kind of giving all sorts of possible scenarios of this.
Right, and okay.
I understand that it's not going to be the same from industry to industry. I was asking just for generally. Yeah, I know it's not a precise number,
but I'm just saying, like I think number one, it depends on whomever the taking over entity is and what their thought is on what they're trying to do with this company moving forward.
Right, I know.
If their thought is they want to just shrink costs of this company, that they're all they care about is making it cheaper to do what it's doing, not necessarily raising revenues. So you cut a bunch of the sales team out because you don't need a bunch of people selling stuff because you don't care about selling more. You just want to make it cheaper to sell what you have. And so, if you have a giant sales force, because that's the old company's, the old CEO's model was to have 10 million people selling all the time.
I completely get that.
Then I
understand it's going to be different depending on the issue that you walk into. Yes, if you walk into a company that has an exorbitant amount of salespeople, that would be something that you would cut.
Well, but the inverse being is you could walk into a company and say this company doesn't have enough salespeople and hire a bunch.
Right.
It's just at some level it's the opinion of the board on how they want to move the company forward.
I guess
bunch of people, hire a bunch of people.
I thought at some point early in the conversation you said this isn't unheard of, and that's where I was more just, like I said, it's way out of my wheelhouse. So I was just kind of wondering what is kind of standard when these things happen. To make the statement that this is completely normal.
But we've talked about ag stuff in the past, right? We've talked about like these chicken farms and some of the different other ag stuff in the past.
Yeah.
Do you remember stories? Like, I remember hearing some stories of like when like a Purdue or Tyson or one of those big boys comes in and takes over, especially a packing facility, not necessarily the farm itself. They'll go in there and they'll buy a packing facility that had 50 employees and cut it to 10.
Or that I've heard about bigger producers essentially buying up their smaller competitions,
right? Or I
haven't really heard much about layoffs.
Or they'll buy a packing facility that has 50 employees and just shut it down and move all that packing to one of the ones they already have.
Right. That's usually what I hear.
Right. And so
you're basically buying the factory guts in order to
right.
send it elsewhere and sell off everything that's on that property.
Or from a Tyson level thing, you would buy, like if me and you had like we were doing a couple tons of chicken a week or something like that. And, it would not be out of the realm of Tyson to buy us, sell all our equipment off, fire all our employees, and not produce a single more pound of chicken at any of the other facilities.
Right.
Because it's not about production volume. They don't want us to production volume. They actually want us to get out of the way so that they don't have to worry about lowering prices because of availability.
Right.
And so that would be buying a company and completely firing everybody. As an example.
Right.
And so if you think the company, I don't know how to put an equivalent to that in government agencies, and I guess the silver lining in all this is, as this Doge thing continues, the validity of your argument that the federal government does a lot of stuff is going to become glaringly clear over time, as all these fired people aren't doing their jobs anymore. I did see a funny one with a guy who was a park ranger in California. It's on NBC News last night, I think. He's like, yeah, mostly what I did as a park ranger before they fired me but mostly I just cleaned the guest bathrooms, and I was just in the park as a regular park visitor today, and those bathrooms are pretty gross. I was like, that's a fair point, man.
Yeah,
that's a valuable job. It sucks, but that's a valuable thing, and people like that.
I heard about that during like the pandemic that they had staffing shortages, so they were kind of asking the public to be more understanding that people want to go visit the parks, but at the same time they're seeing increased visitorship, increased visitors, and they're unable to keep up with the bathrooms as often.
Quit being gross, people. How about that? That's the way to fix it.
Right.
Don't be nasty. People are nasty.
Bring your own toilet.
People are nasty.
That is very true.
So my good friend Aaron over at the Union Jacks, for some reason or the other, somebody kicked his bathroom door in a couple of nights ago. Broke the door.
See it all the time at the bar. Like their door or bathroom was just constantly getting messed up.
No,
what is going on?
That one was kicked in.
Right.
Not just broke in or pushed on funny, but the whole door jamb was busted out. He had to put a whole new door in. I'd put a steel door in and break the next guy's foot.
Yeah.
Jackasses.
We saw beer signs that they had at least 5 or 6 screws, concrete screws into the screw, and people still were all bent and peel it off. It's are you that hard up for a metal sign.
People are. It's when I like. I mean, it's a fight.
Some people just don't care.
With Max and Max and I at the tavern. Max's wife has done a fantastic job decorating that place. It looks gorgeous. I love the way that place turned out visually. But we have a bunch of different random things like not paintings per se, but like art stuff like in a frame on the wall. And when we first opened, we just had them like on a picture hooked onto the wall, and all those frames disappeared within the first 3 weeks or so of us being open. And she gets so mad about it. It's like, listen, lady, just get duplicates. Well, we started screwing them into the wall, so they're screwed in by the frame, and people still rip them off.
Yeah,
and it's just like, we just get duplicates. You just gotta accept the fact that for whatever reason, especially when alcohol is involved, people break bathroom stuff. It just is.
It's necessarily alcohol. I don't think there's necessarily been like a growth in it, but I think there's like a certain percentage of people that just kind of see something and they're like, I want that. I'm just going to take it.
I think there's a lack of respect for other people's things.
I mean, some of it's like they look around, they're like, well, nobody's really looking, so
nobody can be looking. I'm locked in the bathroom.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, I think, I don't know. It has been consistent in the history of my working in bars life that people fuck up bathrooms in bars, period.
That's true.
Full stop. My favorite ever was like, do you remember many moons ago, this very beautiful golden time in history when the dispensers in the bathroom had either a little knob or doodle on it or a crank on the side to get you more paper? Remember way back when that was normal? Yeah. And then all of a sudden this newfangled technology came out where you got to wave your hand at it funky and you don't have to touch it, but it kicks out paper at you. Well, when I was working for O'Charlie's on the Strip, the last year we were there, they converted over to those new laser ones that you wave your hand at. I don't remember who we were playing, but it was a home game. When we went into the bathrooms late in the evening to clean up after we had shut down, both of them were ripped off the wall in the sink.
Nice.
And I was thinking about it, and it's like, when did it happen? I don't know. But other people came through, used the bathroom, may or may not have washed their hands. If they did wash their hands, they washed their hands over the paper towel dispenser in the sink. And then didn't dry their hands because there was no paper towels, obviously.
All right.
But anyway, that's my favorite people like to break bathrooms in the bar story. Anyway, so people destroy bars. Anyway, I don't know, man. Like...
Why are people so crazy?
Got a lot of stuff. Like I spoke to Elaine Davis's assistant. I'm doing all I can in my weak little ways that I can do stuff because I refuse to play the lobby games officially, even though I know that's the best way to actually get anything done. There are 2 bills right now that are going to murder us. Like, it's going to be awful. Like, it's at least 5 to 10 employees are getting fired or getting laid off if this bill passes. It's not an option. It's not I want to or I want it to pass or don't want it to pass. It's irrelevant. It's going to kill THCA and THCP in the state of Tennessee. Full stop. And so I'm doing my best, my due diligence to advocate as best I can. I refuse to pay a lobbyist to do it for me. I do subscribe to and keep in touch with and talk to some lobby groups and people that are involved with lobby groups so that I can stay on task with the messaging. But, I always try to go at it. And so that's why I was trying to get Briggs interview with Briggs earlier today. I do have him scheduled for next week. Tentatively, hopefully I can get him. Maybe I can get him and Massey together because they have no sunshine. They can come do it, and there's no concern with that. But I did tell his assistant when I was talking to her earlier, I was like, if he wants to come in person, if he knows where Becky lives, I'm like half a mile away.
Yeah.
So if he knows Becky, because Becky lives right over there. So if he knows where Becky's house is, I'm barely, a couple hundred yards from Becky's house. But I did reach out and I met Trace in Elaine Davis's office, and I was being an asshole to him because it doesn't really matter because it's Elaine Davis. She's not going to listen to me anyway. I wasn't really being an asshole to him. I was being an asshole about Elaine to him. And it actually got me thinking about something. His name is Trace Tribble. I guess, am I doxing him? Is that legal? I don't know. Whatever. He's a public employee. And so I asked Scott about this earlier, too, because it got me thinking about it. If you are a non-local to Nashville in the state legislature, where do you think your assistants come from?
think they would be more local to you, but I guess it depends on how much time they actually spend in Nashville.
I mean, because in session, they're there Monday through Thursday.
Really? So I guess local.
Yeah. So like, it kind of dawned on me in talking to this guy because the way he kept referring to, and I wish I'd taped it because I don't remember exactly how he said it, but the way he kept referring to Elaine Davis was as the, I want to say it was as the representative. He's like, well, that's up to the representative. Like he wouldn't refer to her by name,
right?
And it was just like it just kind of struck me as odd. And the more I thought, like after I thought about it, I was like, oh, it's some dude that lives in Nashville who is interested in government and politics and is probably
internship or something,
right? I mean, presumably he's a Republican or he has Republican ties or something like that, and that's how he gets it, whatever. And I talked to Scott about it. He's like, I'm not sure actually, but I would assume there's like a pool. There's like a pool of assistants that have worked in Nashville for years, and when you get there, you talk to a handful of them and you pick one of them and you go and you move on.
Right.
It's a pretty well-defined role. You take all the shitty phone calls from all the shitty constituents like me, and you give them the bullshit answer, and you take notes and you pass it along to the rep when you see him, and you move on.
We appreciate your feedback.
Yeah. And so I was talking to him a little bit about these two bills, which Elaine is the House sponsor of the Briggs version that I want to talk to Briggs about. And there's some like deep in the weeds bullshit that I pay attention to that most people don't care about. In this one specifically, both of the ones that are in play are going to kill A&P, which is going to kill business, period. The second one brings in the Tennessee Alcohol Beverage Commission and kicks out Department of Ag, which I kind of get the logic on. I disagree with it fundamentally on all levels, but I get the logic. It's like, well, these are intoxicating substances. Let's put it with a group that does intoxicating substances instead of putting it with a group that does plants. That's the Briggs one.
All right.
But the reality of that one is some cartel bullshit. Like this would basically make it so that you have like everything that's liquor law would apply to hemp sales. And so the thing with for those of you out there that don't own bars or a liquor store, it sucks. It is a mountain of paperwork. It's a mountain of all sorts of stuff. There's extra taxes. There's extra fees. There's extra licenses. There's all sorts of stuff that goes on in it. The number one A in alcohol in the state of Tennessee, you cannot buy alcohol for resale, whether it's on premise or off premise, in the state of Tennessee, unless it is from a registered distributor with the state. So what does that mean, functionally, for you, the consumer?
That I'm limited to
right.
Something that's, I guess, at least licensed within the state. I can't buy.
You are limited to whatever the distributors carry.
Jim Bob's Hooch.
Well, it's to whatever the distributors choose to carry. The second part of that too is that in the state of Tennessee, it is within the law. Actually, I think it's required by law that that no manufacturer can distribute with more than one company in a region. There's 5 regions in the state. So I worked for Lippman Brothers for a number of years. Lippman Brothers in Nashville. If it's not Bud Light, Miller Lite, Coors Light, Michelob, it's probably distributed by Lippman Brothers in the Nashville region, in the beer beer subcategory.
Okay.
And so nobody else that wholesales, that distributes beer in the greater Nashville area can distribute any of the beers that Lippman does. Lippman has a contract with those manufacturers. They're the only ones that are allowed to sell it there.
Right. Distribution rights. Yeah.
Right. And that's encouraged, and actually it's not encouraged, it's required by law in the state of Tennessee. There is no beer company. You are allowed to distribute with different, like I'm trying to think of an example. Jack Daniels is actually the best example. Jack Daniels in Nashville is through Lippman Brothers. Everywhere else in the state of Tennessee except the region that is Tri-Cities in Knoxville. That region is D&V is the distributor of Jack Daniels there. So Jack Daniels is allowed to distribute with more than one distributor if there's not if their distributor isn't in that region. Now it gets funky with Lippman Brothers because Lippman Brothers moved into the region, but the contract was already in place with D&V, so that contract supersedes. So D&V still gets to distribute Jack Daniels, to the point that Lippman Brothers tried to buy D&V about 5 times,
right.
And D&V refuses to sell because all Lippman wants is to be able to sell Jack everywhere in the state. But I digress. How how is that format where only one person in the state is allowed to distribute it an advantage to you as a consumer? Like, how is that law a protection for you?
I guess it's not really protecting me per se.
Right. I would agree with that. Like, I think the way that the way that the state of Tennessee liquor laws, and to be fair,
it's a commercial insurance basically. It's looking out for commercial interests.
Yeah, I mean, it's a cartel. It's monopolistic cartel shit. It is. You can't buy it from anybody else. So if you want to own a bar in Knoxville, and you want to sell Jack Daniels at your bar, among many other things, you have to buy it from D&V. What incentive does D&V have to give a shit about you and your bar? Because you're the customer in the situation. In a normal business transaction, D&V has to put forth effort to get your business. They don't. It's not just, oh, we have the thing that you want, and nobody else is allowed to sell it. If it's not cartel shit, it's monopolistic, whatever phrase you want to do it. It's not free enterprise. That's, I guess, the point I'm getting to. And
I mean, I can't think of comparables. They're kind of like major food brands. I mean, you have certain grocery stores that sell certain brands. You've got to go to certain grocery stores to get certain brands.
But that's usually only if it's a house brand.
But that's where you can... Well, no, not even like house brands. I mean, I found I can't think of anything off the top of my head, but there's certain brands that I only find at certain places. Like I don't see that brand at all at this retailer or that retailer.
The question would
be... I mean, to your defense, I can find that brand in 3 or 4 other stores, but maybe not in a couple other ones.
Right.
So you do kind of have that. I don't know of a comparable.
I mean, I guess
I see what you mean. It does sound monopolistic, but
right. And to be fair and agreeable to the state of Tennessee and some of their law setup, they do have some rules in place that make it a little bit more forced competitiveness, sorta. They're like, but it's not really. It's really just forced competitiveness.
You mentioned about the beer pricing,
right? It's forced competitiveness for the retailer who's buying from the distributor. It keeps it basically. It's a protection of the distributor if you really get down to the brass tacks of it. So in the state of Tennessee, if you sell Terrapin out of Georgia, right? That's actually a Cherokee brand. If you want to get technical about it, Cherokee distributes Terrapin at least in East Tennessee. Actually, Lippman Brothers does it in Nashville. Cherokee distributes that here. The only place, if you're a bar, that you can buy Terrapin from to sell it to customers is Cherokee. Cherokee is not allowed to sell that Terrapin to you at a different price than any other customer of theirs. And that's a way that the way it's presented, or the narrative on that is that's a way to protect small bars from big bars. Right. So like Applebee's or Hooters or something like that, who has huge presence and has huge buying power, they're not allowed to go to Cherokee and be like, hey, we want to run Terrapin, but we're only going to pay $18 a case. Well, Cherokee gets to say, well, we can't do that. That's against the law.
Right.
But who's that protecting? It is protecting the small bar at some level, because the small bar couldn't compete with Hooters in their beer pricing if Hooters is selling their beer for $1 cheaper because they're paying $15 less a case.
And you could argue down the line that's protecting consumers that want to go to a package store or go to a bar and buy a beer, go to a small bar and buy a beer.
Right.
Where that small bar is then having to pass along the cost.
But then inversely, it's also protecting Cherokee from having to play pricing games.
True.
Because the food distributors in town, there's some stuff that they have exclusivity on, but for the most part, if you want to get like a chicken wing, most of them have the same, or at least a very good comparable chicken wing.
Right.
And I guess this is the theoretical argument from the beer side too. It's like, well, Terrapin's IPA is no different than Sweetwater's IPA, and that's another Georgia beer, whatever. But anyway, but the food distributors, they'll play games. Like, you buy 5 cases, I'll give you a case. You make this your house thing, we'll give you a thing. There's some there's some negotiation, there's some play in it, there's some pricing advantages to doing certain things and not doing certain things that get in the works that aren't in play in any of the alcohol.
I wonder if some of that has more to do with, I guess, looking at the food wholesaler, is they're not really selling like a specific brand of a product versus beer. They're selling name brand products
Well,
where that
I
food
mean-
processor, like, I just need a bag of chicken. I don't care whose name's on it. I need a bag of chicken.
Right.
wings.
I need chicken. I need
Where
8
conversely,
by 10.
that bar isn't saying, "Hey, we're selling Acme
Right.
chicken wings."
I need 10 count chicken wings.
Right.
I mean, that's what a 10. I need 10 wings is 1 pound. That's what. Sorry.
Right.
It's super deep in the weeds on specific.
So I'm saying that I don't know if some of it has to do with, like a beer distributor or liquor distributor. You're selling that many trademarked brands.
Well, the liquor specifically it's a tax thing. It's all it is. Because what the state of Tennessee, what the state of Tennessee has designed the system to do is that if you have a bar and you have a liquor license and you're buying your liquors and you're selling your liquors, for those of you that don't know, there's a 15% excise tax on liquor. So you pay 9.25% regular sales tax plus 15%. So you're paying 24.25% tax on your liquor. And so if you have a liquor license as a retailer, as a bar, you say you're obliged annually to enter your schedule, your pricing schedule. And what your pricing schedule is literally, I sell Jack Daniels. I sell a 1 ounce pour of Jack Daniels for this much. I sell a 2 ounce pour of Jack Daniels for this much. I sell a 1 ounce pour of Jim Beam for this much. I sell a 1 ounce pour of Southern Comfort for this much. You're obliged to present the state of Tennessee your pricing schedule. And so they take that, they file that away. And so if ABC wants to look into you, they can go to all the distributors and say, "Hey, distributors, how much did you sell to that guy?" And the distributors will produce that documentation. And so essentially with what you're required to do with your license, the state of Tennessee, with no direct contact with you, can figure out exactly how much you should be paying in taxes.
Right.
They can walk in your door, they can count what's on the shelves, and they can say, "You bought this many bottles, you sold this many bottles are still here. You should have paid us this much dollars in taxes. This is how much you actually paid us. You're scamming us." Because essentially that's the way the liquor law is really set up. It's all set up to make sure that it's easy and direct for the state to do that without having to actually interview and deal with me on it as the end retailer of the game. Because what the state of Tennessee doesn't want you doing is going over to the liquor store and buying a bottle.
Right.
And then selling it.
Or just relying upon a business self-reporting, basically.
Right. Because if you go over to the liquor store and buy a bottle, they don't know you bought that. And if they don't know you bought that, then you could sell it without the tax. Right. Or you can sell it with the tax, but don't send them the tax.
Right.
And you can keep it. And so that's really the game that they're playing. And I get it, and it makes it easier when they only have to go if, like, okay, you reported that you sold, X, Y, or Z. The distributors say that you bought this many bottles of Jack Daniel. Well, it's easier for me to go to one distributor and get the answer for how many bottles of Jack Daniel you sold instead of having to go to 5 different ones. Where with the food is all under regular sales tax, so it's a different. That excise tax is really what it's all about. That's all they care about.
Yeah.
And again, the reason we're getting into this is that's why I'm freaked out about about hemp getting plugged into that, because it's going to bring those exclusivity things in place. I went over one of my distributors' heads because they are supporting this bill because it's advantageous for them to do so. I said, "Hey, I'm not buying any more shit from you if you're going to support this bill." And they're like, "Well, we're not really supporting the bill." And I went and asked some questions and talked to some people, talked to the president of the hemp division for that company, and in his attempts to tell me he isn't supporting the bill, he actually admitted to me that he is, essentially. Wish I would have recorded that conversation. It's like, we're not supporting the bill, but the lobbyists that the alcohol distributors of the state of Tennessee's alliance hired did help write the bill.
Well, and that I'm kind of wondering if that going into the Alcohol and Beverage Commission or whatever, who inspects, distilleries as it is? That's my only thing. You essentially have a grow ops. I don't know about sending, alcohol and beverage inspectors in to inspect,
Well, I mean, right now the Department of Revenue is the one that's inspecting hemp shit anyway, at least on the retail side. Now, on the grow side, I don't know.
That's only, I guess, on the grow side. I guess I was trying to equate it to like a distillery, where essentially you're manufacturing.
Right. And so, I mean, it's really like there's this argument about this. There's this. The argument that this company that I will he's fairly litigious, so I'll keep his official name out of it.
Let's do that.
The company that I was talking to about it, their stance has always been they want the 3-tier system. I'm not used to that phrasing, so I didn't quite understand what he was saying. But as he explained it to me, it made more sense. They want as far as permitting and licensing goes, not functionally, but as far as permitting and licensing goes, a 3-tier system. You could, so for your example, a distillery, a distributor, and a retailer. Those are all separate permits. They could be the same thing. So, like if you go down to Old Smoky in Sevierville,
right? I'm sure they've got their
producer
and retailer.
They
license.
have 3. Well, they probably skip the distributor one because they sell to I think they're with Beverage Control. They sell to other distributors.
Yeah, so I guess they would have to distribute.
They have their manufacturer's permit and their retailer permit.
Right.
But it's a separate permit.
Right. Makes sense.
Like, I don't know.
You're doing two totally different things. I would think if you're going to do both, you got to have both. I mean, I don't think it should be a dual thing. Because I think, some people just want to distill. They don't have to worry about doing retail.
But that's the choice they make, and that's a business decision. Because by not doing retail, you're reducing your potential profitability, and that's a choice. You shouldn't need to be a permit.
Possibly. Maybe they weighed the cost of having to have a standalone, if they try to do it all in one like a lot of distilleries do, where they've got their little gift shop where you can buy or whatever. I'm sure those places have to have their distillers and retail because they're selling out of their gift shop. To where, some smaller distillery, because there used to be one downtown. I don't know if it's still there. It was down on Jackson.
If the distillery is just like... I mean, I understand the functional difference in a manufacturing and a retailer. I truly do. But at the same time, it's like, what's the...
Depends on what their
you're
goal
going to get
is.
so angry. You're going to I'll
try not
What
to.
is the point of the license? Or a permit? So let's just stay on the distillery. What's the point what's the point of a license or a permit to distill spirits? And that you're going to get inspected.
I mean, I think it from essentially we have authorized you as a producer of a product that we say, hey, if you're going to sell this product in the state, we have okayed you producing your product. We know that you're clean. You're not putting out poison, basically.
Okay. You want to try that again? Because there's a lot I'm going to get crazy on.
No, go for it.
Okay. So I think you got where you were trying to go at the end, is that we acknowledge that this particular subset of things combined together makes a new end product. You are doing the process in the correct way that's going to make a safe end product. That is within the rules that we call the end product. So if it's a tequila, you're using the correct ingredients. You're doing the correct sanitary procedures to make sure that you're not putting Ebola or something like that in your bottles. And we acknowledge that you are going through said process to make sure you're doing it correctly. Is that pretty close?
Sure.
Okay, I can agree with that. Now, does having the license give you any protections if you fail to do so?
Protections.
Okay, so the state of Tennessee says that I am distilling tequila because for whatever reason I picked tequila just now, and I'm distilling tequila in the proper methods. I'm doing the proper cleanliness. I'm doing the proper sanitation procedures, but for some reason, I end up with a batch that goes out onto shelves that's chock full of Ebola and kills a couple people. Do I have legal protections on that?
Just because you have a license now.
Okay, so then the license doesn't prove that I'm making safe product.
No, not.
Okay.
Not finitely. No, you having a license does not guarantee your cleanliness.
Okay.
Okay. I don't know where you're going with it, but go ahead.
I'm just throwing that. I'm just putting that put that feather in the cap, and we'll move on. What does a retail permit mean?
Would you say what you want to say instead of doing this questionnaire?
I don't.
Because I don't know what question. Because you want to respond differently. I don't know why you're even asking me a question.
I don't I mean, it goes kind of back to one of my root issues. Like, I don't understand permitting and licensing in the first place. It doesn't prove anything.
Okay.
It doesn't guarantee anything. It doesn't give it in a.
I think it does more so. I think it does more so, and there's ways around it. But essentially, if you have that license, you have something that can be taken away. That you then, as that producing that, you're like, hey, no, you under that name, you have lost your license because of A, B, or C. You can no longer produce anything.
But what would A, B, or C be?
To just what?
What would A, B, or C be? You didn't pay your taxes. you're not being as clean as you said you were being.
Yeah, I don't know, different things. Yeah, do illegal operations, unsanitary operations, unscrupulous, activities. I don't know. I can't think of too many hard specifics, but we'll just leave it at doing illegal activities, whether it's putting out poison accidentally, knowingly.
I mean, I think knowingly is a crime, whether you have a permit or not, though, right? I would think so.
It would, yeah.
Okay.
I mean, some places roll the dice, basically. I mean, we hear about, different things that are in small amounts are poison, but they're acceptable at certain levels. And it only gets bad, if you eat or drink enough of it.
Right. The guy.
So,
Diceto's a fun one. The guy that ate 15 bags of popcorn a day.
The tobacco industry, knew for decades that smoking was harmful.
Sure.
Caused cancer, and they were like, no. Don't forget 20 years ago we were saying, not 20 years ago then, when the lawsuits first started coming out, but, they joke about, used to be commercials of 4 out of 5 doctors recommend Chesterfields or whatever.
Sure.
And that was a time when, the industry knew. So I guess that's more of the knowingly poisoning or whatever, putting out a product. And again, the license doesn't protect you one way or the other on that.
I'm pretty sure.
But it's something that can be taken away when you're found to be doing unscrupulous activities.
I'm pretty sure a cultivation permit for tobacco has been in existence since the 18-somethings.
Probably.
Okay, so...
But that means we shouldn't do it, right?
I don't like... I guess
what does it prove or disprove?
It doesn't. The moral of the story, I think the moral of the story here is all that it's really doing is it's protecting a revenue source for governments. That's all most of these things do. It in and of itself, whether it's a permit or a license that includes fees, is a revenue source.
I can see that. It's regulating commerce, protecting either the state's coffers or the public's coffers, essentially. In a perfect world, they're looking after both.
I mean, yes, I guess technically the state's coffers and the public coffers are the same thing. But what... okay. No,
I mean,
all right.
State coffers and what's coming in, but they're also, I guess, looking after business because they don't want business to move. I mean, there's a reason why politicians are currying, companies to move to the state or bring business to a state. So we are able to benefit from the rewards of
sure.
it.
To go back to the specific of the Briggs bill right now, it's how is it benefiting business to do any of the shit that he's asking for in this bill?
Don't know specifics
it's gonna benefit the company that I will not name because they have the best portfolio in the market of what will stay legal after this is all said and done.
Yes. Something they've seen in other states that have gone legal. All of a sudden, it's like, oh, the 5 people that have been kind of a part of this from the beginning happens to be the 5 people that get the only 5, licenses in the state.
So, Mary Jones sodas that we have in the shop.
Sure.
Jones Cola, same company.
Yeah.
So, in my efforts to try to get a resolution to the issue I was having with said company, this said company is the exclusive distributor in the state of Tennessee of their products. I reached out to them directly. I was like, hey, just so you know, your local distributor is actively trying to kill the industry. You guys will survive, but on the grand scheme of things, they're killing the industry. It's going to make it really hard for the rest of us to survive, blah, blah, blah. And I was talking to their east of the Mississippi sales manager, so probably, top 3 or 4 people in the company. And he was telling me that they were having problems in California with this set of products because California is a legal state for full recreational, but their definition of marijuana in those states is Delta 9 exclusively.
Right.
And so all these little subvariants that us other states that aren't recreational have been playing with are super illegal in those states. And before I talked to him, I was doing some research and I was digging around trying to get contact with the company directly. I found an article out of some San Francisco newspaper. The state of California put out a public warning on a set of their products, the set of products that we sell here, saying that they were dangerous products because they're not taxed. It's not a dangerous product at all. It's a set of products that was avoiding the tax.
Right.
And so it was a full-on
that's
political smear on this set of products because they figured out a way to not have to charge the customer the tax.
Well, yeah, I mean, I would say to an extent it's pandering to kind of the right people. I mean, I think they are the highest tax state, or one of the highest tax states in the U.S. So, I mean, if you're going to tell the public that, like, hey, there's this product that you may be out there, and yeah, you can buy it, but they're not charging tax on it, which means...
But it was a health danger is the way they presented it in the story. That the state of California said it was a health danger. That a hemp...
Okay, I missed that because all you mentioned was that they don't have to pay taxes on it.
It was a hemp-derived... It was, instead of it being a marijuana-derived cannabinoid beverage, it was a hemp-derived cannabinoid beverage.
Right.
And so the state of California said that was a health danger for a hemp version of the same thing. The green apple that we have at the store, the orange cream soda.
I mean, and there could be truth to it. You know, maybe their Department of Agriculture is very hardcore about testing for heavy metals, etc., in their marijuana industry. But maybe their hemp industry...
They don't test at all because they don't have any regs on it because they never bothered with it.
Exactly. They don't have any regulations on it. So, I mean, presumably you could put stuff out on the market that...
Right, but they
didn't spray pesticides on, put Miracle Grow in it, make it grow super fast,
but they didn't. At least in the article's sake, the state of California didn't prove that part of it at all.
I'm playing devil's advocate.
I know it was just an interesting little story. So I don't know. Hopefully, I picked up an ally on the process. He's supposed to get me a out of state distributor that's going to ship it into state for me to continue to buy it without having to buy it from said company.
There was one guy that
I'm on
I mentioned to you. I think he was. Just something out of like Nashville, but I think he was with a university that was kind of studying the regulations. But it's been probably a month or so ago. I was like, hey, I think this guy may be somebody you should reach out to.
Hook it up. Don't you reach out to him. This is your show too, buddy.
It's not my field.
It's
not something I don't have a business interest in it, so I could care less about what this guy's doing. But I thought it would be of interest to you.
Do you think it would be an interesting podcast to do?
No. It seemed like more of a maybe from like the lobbyist perspective, because I think he was kind of on that side of it. Okay. I think it was more like health policy. I think that was kind of his field. Yes, I guess it could be an interesting show out of it, but I'd send it to you for just for the business sake.
The whole point of the show is that I find the whole point of the show is things that I find interesting, and apparently pissing you off is one of those things that I find interesting.
Yay.
But yeah, I would do a show with him. I mean, just think about it that way. Anybody you think I should talk to, think about it on a podcast format, and then hook it up, schedule it. I'll make it happen. I'll talk to anybody. I had Todd Frohmeyer on the show, for fuck's sake. I'll talk to anybody. I'm just kidding. Todd, you're great. I love you. I'm really excited about things that you got going on. I don't know. I don't think you won the state chair. I think I might actually run against Elaine. I'm going to have to. Somebody's going to have to beat her. I can't do this Elaine Davis thing anymore. Like, I have to stop this. I live by the adage. I've lived by the adage for a long time. If not me, who? If not now, when?
Did you reach out to Chris yet and see about your ballot that was in question?
No, that's good. I'm sorry, I have not. I need to. It doesn't matter. Like, that's part of the problem. I mean, technically, like, I will. But
it's a mystery that's kind of curious.
If I do run against Elaine Davis, I will register my run as a Republican, and I will make the party kick me off the ballot. To which I will then transfer. Like, Matt Shears, damn you! I've been trying. I was like, I text Matt. I was like, Matt. And this is when I was joking about running for mayor, which I might still do too. I might do both. I might put that thing into question too, because I can run for both a state seat and a local seat at the same time. I might run for.
I thought they tried to close that loophole when Glory was doing it.
No, because there's a bunch of Republicans that do that, and they
back off of it.
Right. Actually, Mr. Briggs is the one that put that up. I'll talk about it when I get a chance next week, if I remember, which I probably won't because I've had a few rums. I don't know. Like, I just don't want to go to Nashville for 4 days a week for a quarter of the year. Like, if I could stay here and be a state rep, I would absolutely run for 18 right now. Elaine Davis is the fucking worst, and she needs to be gone yesterday.
I don't care for the drive. It's not a bad drive, but it's just, I would say from here to there.
I like my family, for fuck's sake. I don't want to be gone for 4 days a week. Like, it's that simple. Like, it'd be kind of fun. Like, I'd love to see the nuts and bolts. I'd love to meet some of these fucking lobbyists, and I'd love to see how this thing actually plays out. Eddie Manis. I need to call Eddie Manis too. I need to sit down with Eddie. Because I mean, best case scenario, I'd be an Eddie Manis, other than the gay thing. I have no problems with gays. I'm just saying, like, I'm not gay, so I'm not Eddie Manis. But, like, Eddie Manis and me would be the same person. I would sneak through with some bullshittery and then just get annihilated and just get beaten up. And that's what's gonna happen. And I'm gonna turn into Gloria Johnson on the other side. Although there was a good video that went out. A bunch of the Dems were sledding down the Capitol Hill in Nashville. You see that video? It's a funny video. It's a pretty funny video. Like I'm like, it's actually okay. So on a not poking fun at all, Gloria Johnson is sitting on a cheap plastic thing, sliding down a hill in the snow with her health conditions that she's had the last couple of years. That's pretty awesome.
Yeah.
Like literally that just on a physical, you're a human being and I'm glad you're alive. I'm really happy that Gloria Johnson is physically capable.
She's really tall too, isn't she?
Yeah, she's taller than me.
That's what I thought.
I didn't get her back down here. She made my basement look small. She's a big girl. She's fun. Like she was fun. Like I liked her a lot. Like I'm mad at her for running for Senate and losing her accessibility. But it's one of those things too. It's like on a show level, on just doing the podcast and having a good time level, she's great. But on I have personal things that I'm trying to work on. I'm trying to get the government to be a better version of itself, and I have ends that I'm trying to get to. She's not an ally. She's not. I don't want her to be an ally. Is a better way to say it. Like literally,
an advocate.
Right. Literally, if I wanted to get some traction on putting some of this hemp stuff to death, I would go to Gloria and be like, Gloria, support this. Because if you're supporting it, they're going to hate it. It's the same thing with Amelia right now. Like, I have some city stuff that I'm working on, and I like Amelia, and I think Amelia and I have at least some mutual respect for each other. We have differences of opinions. Not everything's fucking racist, for Christ's sake. But I think Amelia, I like Amelia's existence. I like the fact that she refuses to agree by default. Like, if everybody agrees, she's disagreeing. She's not sure why, but she's disagreeing.
Right. I don't blame her on that. You kind of get that intuition. It's kind of like, hey,
I love it. I think it's great.
On, something's not right here.
I think it's great.
In politics, we're all in agreement on something. Hold on.
Right. But I have a particular thing that I want to do, and I don't want to talk to her about it. If anything, I'm going to call her and tell her that it's only for white people. Because I want her to hate it. Because if she hates it, it's more likely to pass. I don't make these things. This is statistically correct. This isn't me being stupid. This is functionally correct.
Okay.
It is. Like, if she can't introduce anything, because anything she introduces, everybody hates her. Because of the way she acts. That's on her, not on me.
That may be more true, but the comment of, maybe never mind.
I'm just trying to figure out how to make sure she doesn't like it. Because if she doesn't like it, the rest of the city council is more likely to like it.
Gotcha.
I mean, it's a little bit backwards
Say
logic.
that versus give an example.
But the only way, like the easiest way to make sure she doesn't like it is be just anyway. Sorry. What else is going on, Fred? Let's move the subject on.
Well, essentially that one thing that was podcast was like 6 years ago. I don't know if you looked at.
I listened to it when it came out, like years ago, and I remember parts and pieces of it. I
wanted you to go back and re-listen to it because I thought it was poignant in current time.
I'm going to reference
right, but no, I was more like of the study that he had talked about. I wanted to hear also what he said, and then I thought it was an interesting conversation between the two of those, and kind of the difference of the way Rogan was talking then versus Rogan talking now.
Right.
And it was really interesting because it was right after the 2016 election. So Trump had just come in. So this is just kind of like I thought it was an interesting kind of continuum of we're now at the beginning of a second Trump term.
I mean, I'm sorry. I do. Okay.
You're a busy person. I understand.
But as I mentioned earlier in the show, I am still on last week's Breaking Points episodes. I like on current events. I'm past my prime. Right. Lawrence Lessing, he's essentially he broke down. It's the money in politics thing. It's the front end of the conversation, at least.
Probably, yeah.
It's the how much we're talking less than 1% spending the majority of the money that makes. I don't know. Like the money in politics thing. I get the complaint, and I agree with the complaint for the most part. The problem is I can't justify the two. I can't justify the free
justify
speech
the what?
act.
Sorry,
I can't justify the free speech act against the restriction of. I mean, at some point, it's a restriction of. If it's your money, you do what you want. Like, okay, you can't directly. Like, I get the idea of the super PAC. I hate them. I don't like super PACs. I hate that they exist. But I get the premise of if I want to like I hate the idea like I really would be okay with the idea that anything political doesn't need to be a nonprofit. That's problematic to me. Like I could start a nonprofit political PAC right now. That seems weird. And anybody can donate whatever they want to me, and I can directly support whoever I want to. Well, indirectly support whoever I want to without...
it's something weird. It's like you can kind of work in conjunction, or no, you can donate to, but you can't work like in conjunction with the official campaign.
But you have maximums. Like you have the same maximums as anybody else does in direct donations. But in using the funding that you have, you can do whatever you want. Okay, like think about it this way. I start a company to elect Republicans. And the goal of the company is to elect Republicans. The fact that I'm allowed to make that a nonprofit thing is its own issue. But just the idea is like I want Republicans to win. And my company is based on donations from people that are willing to donate to me. You can't there's no why would the government be able to restrict how much people can donate to me individually?
You ask me why should they?
Well, just on how could they is the question more than why should they. I can understand the fairness conversation, but on a constitutional base, I don't know that I can.
Well, I mean, I think before the whole Citizens United, I think that's where the Supreme Court basically said that a corporation or a super PAC can now be treated as an individual. And I think it had to do with kind of your argument of free speech.
Right, but I'm an individual, and okay.
Right, but I don't think corporations should be treated as a quote-unquote individual person. Because that was their argument, that essentially if a person can donate so much, but I think there's even limits on individual donations to campaigns.
But that's direct donations to campaigns. The problem with super PACs is that they are uncoordinated, and I put air quotes in real hard here, right. People. They're not coordinating with the campaign. Is that, okay, so... Take out I start a company to elect Republicans. I want Republicans to win. I can say whatever I want. I can do whatever I want. I can take money from whoever I want to take money from to help Republicans win. How can the government tell me not to? They can tell me I'm not allowed to coordinate with the campaign or the candidate itself. Okay. But I love Elaine Davis, and I want Elaine Davis to win this. How is it logical against the First Amendment to stop me from doing everything I want to and can do to support her?
It's not stopping you. I think it's putting a limitation on it. Just like we've talked about before.
That's stopping.
There are limitations to your free speech. There are limitations to your Second Amendment rights. There are limitations to a lot of things that it's not just a universal. You're a person. I should be able to spend as much money as I want, however I want in any campaign. For me, it goes back to fairness.
But you take out the
just
campaign,
because you are a corporation should not give you outsized political influence over an individual.
But again, the thing is that you are as an individual maxed. Well, rephrase that. The campaign as an entity is maxed on how much they're allowed to accept from you.
Right.
I could want to donate $10 gajillion to your campaign. You're not allowed to take that from me.
Right.
Because you have a max. There's a maximum per campaign that's in play.
Right.
That's a separate thing. I can go out and I can go out and buy billboards. I can go out and buy radio time. I can go out and start my own podcast to promote the candidate, whoever the candidate is, separately from them. I'm not doing it with them. I'm not in league with them. I agree with them. I want them. How is it okay for the government to stop me from exercising that? Because I'm not doing it with them or for them. I mean, yes, I'm doing it for them, but I'm not doing it for them explicitly.
You're not officially doing it in conjunction with them.
Right.
I get that's the one main law or the one main rule that's supposed to keep some kind of separation between a super PAC and a campaign, but
Right.
those lines get muddied very easily.
It would be nice if there was a better if there was some oversight on making sure that Billy, who works for the campaign, isn't coming and talking to me on the side, telling me what the campaign's working on, so I can make sure I'm in line. But at the same time, I'm allowed to talk to the candidate. I'm a constituent, whatever.
I don't know. Yep. Sure, but I'm trying to pull up the numbers. That's one thing I was talking about, the kind of survey that they did.
I mean, it's like 10 people. Like, it was like a tiny amount of people. I'm sorry. Which survey?
Did you look at it?
The survey?
Yes.
No.
So where are you getting that it came from 10 people? And your automatic just flippant just disapproval of. I
wasn't disapproving of.
That sounded like it. Like, what? That was 10 people. That was you was telling me that this survey doesn't matter because they only supposedly asked 10 people.
No, that's not exactly. That's not actually.
What were you trying to say?
That he was saying that it was like 10 people who donate like 90% of the total in really politics movement.
Sorry, I jumped ahead.
Is that correct? Is that close?
I don't remember specifically.
It's a tiny number of people. It's a tiny number of people and things that it's a tiny number of individuals who have control over a bunch of different things that do the majority of the money movement in politics in the United States.
Yeah.
That's what I was trying to say with the 10 people thing.
Oh, gotcha. I mentioned it sounded like you were already pushing back. Like, what? The 10 people?
Look, the problem with this argument is that I like like the first time we had Matt Sears on the show, he looked me up.
Right.
And he said the computer program tells me that these are your important issues, and number one issue was money in politics, and I disagree with him. And I still technically disagree with him. I do think that the money in politics is a problem. I do think the idea that we're talking billions of dollars to run a presidential campaign. Like, if you don't have $1 billion in your war chest, you have no shot. It's not happening. Like, right. If I like legitimately, like me joking about running for 18, or me joking about running for mayor in Knoxville, or Knox County, excuse me. I'm sure I could text Matt and ask him, but I'll bet you it's a solid 6 figures to run for the mayor of Knox County.
Right. Like, I remember like Randy asking, what does it take to win an election? I was like, money. He was like, no. I was like, what are you talking about?
But you don't win without it.
Right. It's not a guarantee, but
that's what I'm saying. Like, I'll bet you, I'll do that. God, I need to start taking notes on all the things I have to do after we do a show. I will try to text Matt and I will try to text Randy and be like, how much do I need to run for mayor? Yeah. Like, realistically, how much do I need to collect to even have
my war chest? Yeah, before I get this campaign started,
to even have a shot in hell.
They can give you a rough guess of like, to put out this many radio ads or whatever.
I'll bet you to run for Knox County mayor, it's probably approaching, if not breaking, $1 million.
I was going to say $500,000, but yeah, wouldn't surprise me.
I mean, to have a real shot at winning a primary against, well, I'm not going to run as a fucking Republican because I can't. So I don't have to win a primary. But for a real shot, well, it doesn't matter. God damn it, it doesn't matter. I can't run as a Republican, so it doesn't matter. I mean, realistically, it doesn't matter. Like, I could have $50 million to run, and I can't win because I can't be a Republican. Because the party will kick me off their primary, and if I'm running as an independent or a Democrat, I'm not going to win in Knox County.
Right.
Which doesn't matter. I'm not going to get $50 million if I'm not a Republican anyway. But this is so dumb. This is dumb. Anyway, sorry. You brought some notes, stats. Hit me.
Well, I thought one of the most telling things that in the story or on the survey that he was trying to point out that there are a lot more. There are issues, at least with campaign financing, that Republicans and Democrats are very much more in agreement on. Like on that one point, I guess they've got 9 and 10, and 64% strongly agreed.
When you say Democrats and Republicans, are you talking about elected officials, or are you talking about people on the street?
People on the street.
Okay.
Sorry, the survey was only to everyday people, not politicians whatsoever.
No, it's a distinction that's worth making, right. But I wanted to make sure before I made a comment.
Right. And 64% strongly agreed that corporations and lobbyists have too much influence, essentially on governments.
Yeah. The only 64? I feel like that's...
The 64 was strongly, where you've got, I think there was like strongly, mostly agree, and then like somewhat agree. I don't remember the exact parameters, but 64% of those surveyed
Sure, right.
of both sides of the aisle.
So 64.
So we're strongly in agreement.
Right.
That,
So presumably another significant percentage is in agreement, but not strongly in agreement. So we're probably in the 80 percentile.
So, 90%, 9 and 10 felt that way.
There's right. There, okay, so 90% plus say that there's too much lobby and corporate involvement in politics. Yeah. Of that 90%,
they have outsized influence essentially on politics.
Of that 90%, 2/3 of them said there was way too fucking much.
Yeah. I think it is 64% of that 90 probably.
Yeah. Okay. Agreed.
Yeah. Also, I guess got kind of to my point. I think more people are in agreement that there is an outsized influence, and that a lot of money in politics is not necessarily a good thing. And he kind of goes into...
Well, I mean, look, it's where I'm at right now. Like, literally, physically, functionally right now. I don't have the money. Right. I don't have money to fight what I'm trying to fight right now. Right. I'm trying to fight right now on, I don't know, consistency, philosophy, values, which... I would think those three would be like the top three important things, but I don't have money, so it doesn't matter. I'm going to get Briggs on the phone. I'm going to talk to him. I'm going to tell him why I think he's wrong on X, Y, and Z. He's not going to change his mind. I'm going to get Elaine Davis. No, I'm not, because Eric won't let me. I'm going to get Elaine Davis. I'm going to be like, you're wrong. I understand that your husband had dealt with, was in narcotics and was chasing drug dealers and stuff down for years, and that it was terrible and all that kind of shit. He was in drug enforcement, and you've seen the worst of it. But the worst of what you've seen is because of what it is, because of how you treat it, not because of what it is. At least in this particular subset of the things. So logic, philosophy, values are irrelevant because I don't have the money to actually chase it down. I agree, 1,000%. I'm going to keep fighting the good fight, though.
That's right. Keep on keeping on.
We're going to start. I need to start a GoFundMe too. That might help my cause.
Could work. Let's see. They also said 9 and 10 said elected officials think more about interest of campaign donors than the common good of the people. And also 9 and 10 said Congress gives priority to party interest over people. Let's see. 2/3 of those. Huh?
Say the last two again.
That 9 and 10 Congress gives priority to party interest over people.
Okay.
So it's again something that Democrats, Republicans across the board are in agreement on something on that. 2/3 of that 90% were both strongly agree of both parties. Let's see. They agree that politicians can't compromise, too much partisanship. Let's see here. 90% say it's part of the democratic process, but makes Congress ignore the people. Then,
wait. What's part of the democratic process?
Let's see here. Oh, partisanship. I think there's too much partisanship. I guess some say that
they acknowledge it's part of the process, but it's in spite of the will of the people.
That it makes Congress ignore people. They understand that there's going to be political discourse, but they also say there's never any kind of compromise. That there's never I guess there's excess gridlock. The members aren't civil, and then gerrymandering. Yeah,
I don't care about
politicians.
Civility.
Can't compromise. I know we've talked about this. You don't care about civility.
I'm commenting on the stats you're throwing out.
Gotcha.
Gerrymandering.
I just thought it was interesting.
The problem
it was more kind of talked about. Like I said, I think you kind of thought it was more about money, but I think he focused a little bit more on money. But it was more about the dissatisfaction of people. And I thought it was really interesting. I think they did this in like the summer of 2016. Ooh. So they had the results, but they didn't. They specifically waited until after the election to release the results. They didn't want to be shown as trying to sway the election.
Well, I mean, I would argue to death that that's why Trump won in the first place. That's why Trump won again. Yeah. I think that's why the Doge thing, as much as people are fucking losing their minds over it, that the vast, like if you actually got out there on the same street and did the same survey with the same people, you're going to get probably 60-40, maybe 70-30 that are kind of pro what Musk is doing.
There's another we can look at. I mentioned it to you where they did a swing state.
Sorry, go ahead.
There was a swing state survey that I guess they did in the past year or so. That,
I mean, the institutional distrust that I think is at play right now that totally lines up with all those stats you dropped out. I think people are.
I don't think that's reflecting in support for Doge. I think.
Okay.
I mean, most of the surveys that I've seen are ever increasingly against what's going on right now. They like the idea of, hey, we're looking for waste, and then it's like, wait, but we didn't think you were doing this.
Right. Sure. But until we start seeing some of these parts and pieces actually hitting home for a significant number of people, like if they actually do some of the Social Security shit that's been kind of poked at, then we're going to see some real shit. If they get some Medicare shit that has been kind of poked at, then we're going to see some real pushback. But like the USAID thing, like nobody knew what they were in the first place. Who cares if you gut an agency that nobody knows what they do?
Until people start finding out what they do. I'll admit they've got every single department has some bad funds that they've sent money off to, but
I mean that's the thing is that I would argue that same set of people that questionnaire or survey was done with was asked if you think the government is doing a good job, or if you think that if you trust that there's a positive influence on what they're doing, that it would be less than 50% of that too. If the people that are if the elected body is distracted or cares more about X than you, then the entities that they create are going to reflect that, I would assume, right? Like if you
say that again.
Okay, so like what was it about? They care more about partisanship than me, the voter, right? That was one of the stats. They care more about partisanship than compromise. They care more about the party or the donors or it was the party donors and lobbyists than they do the people.
Right.
Well, if so that becomes a trust issue real fast. I don't trust that Elaine Davis, for a perfect example, has my best interest as a citizen at heart. Not me, the royal me, like I always say. That she is not in it for me. If I don't trust her, then anything that she is creating, I don't trust is for in my best interest either. I mean, that's not a big logical leap.
I don't disagree that some of this is, I mean, it's been outright false information, but a lot of it is kind of reveling in this gray area of a lot of these departments are unknown.
Sure.
They don't know what they do.
Again, but irrelevant is that if the survey says that I think my elected officials care more about the party, the lobbyists, special interest, or what was the other one? Donors. Special interest donors, same thing, right? That they care more about them than they care about me as their constituent. Then anything that they create...
You're jumping conclusions. I don't know why you're trying to tie the two together.
I don't think I am. I mean, realistically, if you're an elected
faction,
official...
I don't see how you're jumping to that those same people that are dissatisfied with the government are going to then think, oh, well, these same things that were created by my representatives, which most of these aren't. A lot of these things they're going after are things that were established, over a quarter of a century ago. So I don't see the connection
right, so the question
in trying
is,
to blame their current representatives for things that are created.
In part of the questionnaire, was it now only? Was it this version of the government, not the government that you were?
This is asking about, I guess, the function of the government at the time.
I mean, at some level, they're approving budgets for things that exist, or whether they existed before or not. If they care more about the lobbyists than they care about you, then they're approving a budget for a thing that the lobbyist wants, not the thing that you want.
To an extent, I don't know. It felt like you were kind of making a big leap there and trying to. Square a circle.
I mean, some of the agencies are newer than others, I guess, but yeah, at some point, at some point, Congress specifically, they approve a budget. And if you don't if you care about the common good or whatever, and there's an agency that isn't for the common good, or rephrase that, if you care about your lobbyists, your donors, and your special interests and all that kind of shit more than you care about your group or your constituents, then if you approve a budget, then the budget you approved, I'm assuming, is for the people that you care about, which isn't me, right?
Yeah, I guess you could come up with that conclusion. I don't think most would run down that rabbit hole in their mind.
Okay, I do. I think most people. I think the vast majority that survey and other polls and stuff that have done. I think a lot of people think that this thing isn't about us anymore, and all the things that exist are this weird little concoction of things, and they're tired of the fucking concoction of things. I think that's why.
To an extent, I don't think they're quite to the burn it all down mindset.
I am, but I understand that other people aren't. I understand that other people aren't. But I think I think one of the things that's fun, that's fun and humorous about the whole thing is that one of the best, like we've joked about it on the show before. Like I would like to have the job of I want to be the bill namer. I want to be the guy that makes that names the bill. So that when it's put on there, and then a decade later, when people are picking it apart, well, you got to pick apart the Protecting Babies Act, because it's hard to pick apart the thing that says protecting babies.
Okay,
I think it's a fun job. I want to be the guy that makes up these bill names, because
I don't think is that a specific position?
No, it's not. It's just whoever writes the fucking thing.
That's what I was about to say. I'm sure it's some staffer that.
You're right.
Sometimes they try to come up with a catchy name.
How do I make this catchy and sound good, regardless of what's inside of it?
Right.
All right, let's get weird. Normal weird. Here we go, people.
Let's see here. South Carolina.
3 weeks to make up for.
We did one last week.
No, we didn't.
Yeah, we did.
No, we didn't. We stopped like mid-episode so that Scott could take his phone call. 2 weeks ago.
I thought we did a quick one, sorry. South Carolina man is sentenced to life after confession on stand also led to his friend's arrest. Don't know about this one.
I'm very interested in the details.
That's what I said. I haven't heard of this. I'm like, oh, that's weird.
So basically, he confessed to being an accomplice to another crime.
Let's find out.
That's the only thing that makes sense to me.
Let's see who provided detailed testimony of how he brutally stabbed his friend's ex-wife 35 times, was found guilty of murder and sentenced to life in prison, despite his claims the killing was justified because a child was in danger. His testimony this week not only led to his conviction, but gave authorities enough evidence to arrest and charge his friend before Hughes even left the witness stand Wednesday. His friend
paid for
could also face life imprisonment. I've never had a defendant get on the stand with the kind of attitude, ego, cold-faced sternness, and explained a brutal murder in the way he did. It shook me a little bit.
Wait, how'd the friend get what's the friend's crime?
Let's see here. Blah, blah. Found foul play. There's some revenge porn. Allegations that she and her new fiance abused the child that she had with her ex-husband. These allegations are why Hughes said he killed, or why the person killed the other person. So I guess it led to a child abuse investigation.
Right. Yeah, so it's accomplice. Like he put him up to it. Is that a crime?
Well, he put him up to it. I guess he was saying that he went crazy.
Right. He told his buddy. He said, "Man, my ex-wife and her new boyfriend are abusing my kid, and I can't do anything about it." And then the other dude went and killed the wife. And his quote-unquote lie about the abuse is what turned the other guy into the murder, right?
I'm not sure. I'd have to reread that. It sounds a little complicated story.
Yeah.
It sounds like there's like 3 or 4 different people involved.
All right.
Sorry, maybe a little too weird for the news.
Bring that back for next week.
That's what I get for trying to cold read this shit.
We could make that a full episode. Here we go. Do it again. Oh, I missed the button. Fuck it, I quit.
Let's see here. We got a little bit of baseball. Let's see. New York Yankees drop a ban on beards 49 years after it was imposed by owner George Steinbrenner.
Players are not allowed to have beards on the Yankees?
I guess so. I guess it was a rule.
Are they allowed to do that?
Well, it wasn't necessarily enforced. It may just be like a weird rule. I think I've heard that about like the New York Islanders, that one of their owners like didn't want anybody to have like mustaches or facial hair.
I mean, when I was working at a restaurant, we had a mustache only rule, but that falls under food safety stuff. Actually, that's a good question. Because you can have a beard, like by food standards, you can have a beard. You just have to wear a beard net.
Right. Oh, and I mean, at the gas station, we could only have a mustache.
But right, as a company policy, like the company that I'm thinking about, Cookout, piece of shit, and they could fucking burn in hell for all I care. They basically did a military policy. You could do a small mustache. You could do a mustache that didn't go past the ends of your mouth. Like that was policy.
don't know if any other places that had any policies like that. I don't think so.
I mean, like we have. I mean, I have a dress code and hygiene policy for our company.
Yeah, I think CarMax was like that. That's basically like as long as you don't look unkempt,
right?
Or your facial hair, basically, don't look like a wild man.
Which the new definition, like it's hard, like it's such a low bar, and people still figure out how to get underneath it. I mean, I say that my beard looks like shit, so it's just big and beautiful because it's big, not because it's beautiful. You got one more?
Huh. Yeah, there's a nice little community payback.
Payback, bitch.
Michigan judge sentences Walmart shoplifters to wash cars in the parking lot. Michigan judge is putting sponges in the hands of shoplifters, ordering them to wash cars in a Walmart parking lot when spring arrives. Hoping the unusual form of community service discourages people from stealing from Walmart and rewards shoppers who could see higher prices or possibly lose stores if thefts continue. The car washes will be free.
So public humiliation. We're back to public humiliation as a thing.
It's not public humiliation.
Depending on the person, it might be.
I mean, I don't think so. I think it's kind of forcing them to pay back Walmart. It's like, you tried to steal from us.
Sure.
We want you to reward our customers that are coming here with a free car wash. It's either that or go to jail. I mean, you're given these options. You can either do community service. I don't think they're being forced to. I think you always kind of have that option.
Yeah, but I mean, that's not community service. That's Walmart service. Anyway,
they've picked a specific place because that's what they stole from.
I get it.
It's not uncommon for courts to do that. If you steal from a place, it's like, hey, we've talked to this person. They're willing, to lessen, I guess, their prosecution of charges.
They'll drop charges on the agreement that you do X.
All right.
Way to go, Sam Walton, you son of a bitch.
Hey, you didn't know this, the small business that you stole from, you may have never been there before, but the owner is willing to work with you, Maybe you've got some other stuff going on, so he's like, hey, if you want to come work with me under apprenticeship, etc. Doesn't have to be public humiliation. Sometimes it's for the betterment of others as well.
I don't know. Washing cars in a Walmart parking lot sounds humiliating to me. I'd be humiliated, but I also don't steal from Walmart because I haven't been in a Walmart in like 5 years, and it's awesome.
I mean, I don't know if they would have to wear like the DUI, like trash crews have to wear a thing that says like DUI offender or whatever.
Yeah. I don't know. This is me being weird, jumping to conclusions. Love you, buddy. Oh, it was so good to do a normal show again. Sam's looking fantastic in his suit with the vest and the whole thing, tie and everything. Came in here looking like $1 million. Anyway, Almost Agreement at gmail.com, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube. Go to the website, almostagreement.com. Check out Holloroo. It's on the docket for May 17th, excuse me. Holloroo.co. Sign up today. Come race a derby car with us. It'll be super fun. Only one guy got hurt real bad last year, but it was because his brakes didn't work. Anyway, he was the first person to ask me when we were running again, so I'm pretty sure he had a great time. Almost Agreement gmail.com. Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, website, already said. All your favorite podcast providers, we're on there. Like, friend, follow, share, text us to your friends. Do what you can to share the word. We're going to keep doing stuff. This temp thing is going to be a problem, so I'm going to be freaking out a lot about that. It's stressing the shit out of me to the point where I got some muscle relaxers, and I'm on them right now, so deal with it. Anyway, we're almost here, people. Thanks for staying out. We'll do another show very soon. Be safe out there. The snow will be gone. Don't worry. Relax. Weather, sports, news. Yeah, we did the whole podcast.